Module 1 is all about installing and working with Windows Server 2008 R2. Now, this course is designed for those of you with absolutely no experience with servers whatsoever. So before we get started installing and working with the operating system, let's take a step back and look at servers in general. At its most basic level, a server is a device on a network that provides a service and responds to requests. Now, let's have a look at why on earth we need servers to begin with. So before computer networking, we had what we affectionately refer to as the sneaker net. Let's have a look. Let's say that Jane here has a file and Susie needs to access that file to work with it. Well, before computer networks, Jane would have to save it to a disk and walk it over to Susie, hence the clever term sneakernet. Susie could work with it, and let's say if Liz and Sarah needed it, same thing. It had to be walked over to them as well. And assuming that they are doing what they should be doing and keeping that file on the disk and working with it there, that's not too bad of a solution. Inefficient, but not bad. But if they're doing the opposite and saving that document to their computers and keeping it there, then we potentially have a few different versions of that document floating around and no one really knows which one is the correct one. We cause a lot of headaches. Let's get rid of that. Fast forward a few years and let's throw a switch and some network cables into the mix, and now we have a computer network. More specifically, we have a peer-to-peer network where they're all PCs, not really, no one really has any specific function. They're all just kind of hanging out, talking, having a good time. And this works perfectly for small shops when no one really has to share or provide any information to any other computer. They all just getting on the internet and doing things of that nature. But let's throw this into the mix. Let's say that Susie has a document that some other people in the office need access to. There are several options that Susie has. She could email it or get it to them in some other fashion, but most likely what's going to happen is they are going to access that document across the network while it still lives on Susie's PC. And that's perfect. That's fine. Not a problem. In this case, Susie's PC is acting as a server. Okay, and Jane's PC is acting as a client. Jane is doing the requesting, and Susie's PC is responding to that request. So her PC is acting like a server. But acting like a server does not make it a server. Just like when my wife leaves the house and I'm taking care of the kids, what she normally does all day when I'm at work, I am acting like mommy. But acting like mommy does not make me mommy. You can ask my kids. You could especially ask my wife. She'll tell you I don't even come close. So, acting like a server does not make it a server. Why not? Well, PCs are not made from as robust of hardware as servers are. So, they're going to fail more often than a server would. When that happens, whatever information that PC was providing access to goes away. Okay? Until such time as one of us gets that computer back up and running, and once again, everyone is happy. Okay? That's one challenge of peer-to-peer networks when we start needing to share information. Okay? And that may work for a while and everyone will be happy, but we have a different challenge here. We have the challenge of these PCs should have usernames and passwords on them. And because of that, whenever someone tries to access the information on Susie's computer across the network, Susie's computer is going to stop them and ask them to authenticate. That computer is not going to allow anyone in it that it doesn't know who it is. So the way we get around that is providing friendly usernames for the people who have to access information. Now, these usernames are only usernames that Susie's PC knows about. Everyone else's PC has their own user accounts and passwords. You can see I have Liz and Mary down there at the bottom. Two different people may be using that computer. Who knows, right? So let's say other people have information to share. Our office is growing, our business is growing, and as it grows, our need to share information grows with it. But the problem that happens is we end up with a Wild West situation where there's no regulation of how things grow. So you end up with a lot of confusing information, people not being able to keep up with whose user account is where, and things like that. So we have a situation here where these people have outgrown the peer-to-peer network model, and they need something better, a better solution. Well, let's look at one. So let's bring our office employees back here. And instead of just placing a switch in the center, let's give them a server, more specifically a file server. And we'll place all those documents from the last screen into this file server. And all those user accounts we will consolidate into one server. So now, all those documents, everyone can access on a centralized server. And everyone only has to keep up with a maximum of 2 user accounts, their own on their computer and the one they have on the server. So that is much easier on our users and much easier on us as IT people, because we're only having to keep up with the server and the odd and end PC issues that may come up. But let's look at some other nice things about this server. We could also make this server provide other services for us, say an internal collaboration website, maybe a database application to keep up with our customers, maybe share a few printers off of this server so everyone can print to certain printers, or maybe even host our own email. So we have a lot of possibilities that we can do with a server in the mix here. So our users are so much happier with what they have going on now as opposed to what they had before. And yes, you really should hug your IT person. I agree, Susie. Liz, you still work here? Huh? Okay. Because of the nature of what they do, servers have to be up 24/7. So the hardware that they run on has to be able to handle being up for long periods of time without being shut down, without getting rest. The people who make this hardware are usually the same people who make PC hardware, HP, Dell, what have you. But really what makes it a server is the operating system. These operating systems are made by people like Microsoft, Linux, Unix, and I'll throw Apple in there just for good measure. They make a server, but I don't think anyone ever uses it. Not in my experience, anyway. In this course, we're going to be focusing mainly on the Microsoft servers. Microsoft has been in the server business since about 1993 when they came out with Windows NT Server. They went through various flavors of that until they decided to start naming servers based on the year around which they were released. And they started that with Windows Server 2000, went all the way up through, most recently, Windows Server 2012. Now, there are 2 versions of Windows Server 2008. The first version was really designed to work best with Windows Vista clients, can service earlier clients, of course, but it's designed specifically to service Windows Vista clients. And Windows 2008 R2 is designed specifically to service Windows 7 clients. So there's kind of the difference in those two versions. In this course, we're going to be concentrating on Windows Server 2008 R2. Windows 2008 R2 comes in several editions or flavors, if you will. Starting with Foundation, this is the nuts and bolts, made for really small shops, that kind of thing. The Standard, made for small and medium-sized businesses, cost-effective, doesn't have all the frills that a larger company might need, perfect for a small and medium-sized business. The Enterprise Edition adds the features that a larger business might need in terms of high availability and things like that. Data Center, designed for high-intensity applications. So it's going to add features that are centered around staying up for long periods of time without getting a rest. The Windows Web Server, you guessed it, designed to host websites and not much more than that. And Windows for Titanium-based systems is a special edition of Windows Server designed for servers running Titanium processors. The one thing that all of these editions have in common is the fact that we used to be able to choose a 32-bit version of the operating system. Not anymore. We don't have that option. Windows 2008 R2 only comes in 64-bit. In this class, we're going to be focusing mainly on the Enterprise edition of Server 2008 R2. In the next video, we are going to be having a look at installing the operating system and working with a few things after it's installed.